Welcome to the Aviation Capital Program webinar. Please mute your lines. The questions and answers will be at the end of the webinar or in the Q&A. So to get to the Q&A, I've got a little screenshot of it here. It's going to be at the bottom right with a little ellipsis, a little 3-dot button, where you'll either see Q&A or a box with a question mark. Or sometimes it's in the top right, top of screen. But either way, it's going to look like there's going to be a box with a question mark. You're going to click on that, and you'll be able to enter your questions, and then we'll be able to answer them. All the question and answers will be posted on the web. Our website is www.dot.ny.gov/aviation-grants. There's additional information available on the website as well as how to contact us. So I'm going to show you guys our website. This is it. This is our grant page, and this one has the state program. We've got the notice of funding availability, program guidelines. We have frequently asked questions, how to improve your application, the Smart Growth Checklist, as well as the Smart Growth Checklist guidance. Here's the last webinar recording that we had, and here's the key. Application period expires January 11th at 5 p.m. Right? And if you have any questions, you can call us at 518-485-7691. That's our general aviation phone number, and our mailbox is aviation@dot.ny.gov. So our agenda today is, by the way, for the agenda, it'll take about an hour and 15 minutes to go through this. So we'll probably be going till 11:15. Just so you know, the agenda's got solicitation, basic information, or what are the key dates, eligible projects, who are the eligible applicants, and then some of the grant award details. The solicitation details, we'll get into some details of the scoring and selection process, smart growth requirements, and Wanda Anderson from our Office of Civil Rights will discuss the MWBE and EEO requirements. Then we'll go through the tips on preparing your application. We can go through the question and answers if you have any. And then there's an optional Grants Gateway detailed walkthrough that Jeff Fila will do. If you haven't had an opportunity to get into Grants Gateway yet, you definitely should stay for that, or it's a good refresher. Okay, I'll say it lots of times. Applications are due on January 11th at 5 p.m. Do not wait till the last minute. You probably should put them in the day before, actually, in case there's any IT issues, etc. You just don't want to be waiting till the last day on these things. They must be entered via Grants Gateway, so you have to have accounts to Grants Gateway. Any questions for Grants Gateway can go to grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. And then other questions, like I've said before, can go to our aviation mailbox at dot.ny.gov. So what are some of the eligible projects? The Aviation Capital Grant Program is open to public use airports, which are listed in the current State Airport System Plan, the SASP for short, in categories 1 through 4. Eligible program activities include, but aren't limited to, capital facilities, work on capital facilities, including construction, reconstruction, improvement, reconditioning, or preservation. Also, pavement maintenance and management projects. You can purchase airport equipment. Note that equipment acquired must be operated and stored on the airport property. Can't be sharing snowplows with the town or etc. county. Purchase and installation of navigational aids, are eligible, and projects which address safety issues at the airport. Sponsors must keep ownership of improvements, and projects must be consistent with the latest ALP, Airport Layout Plan, and the ALP must be sent to NISDOT if not federally obligated. The minimum service life for these improvements projects is 10 years. Make sure you include that in the questions. It asks what's your minimum service life. It's got to be at least 10 years. Okay. All right. So let's see. Next slide. All right. Your airports need to be in compliance with the 2004 anti-terrorism legislation. That is essentially our security and registration process that we send out every 3 years to all the airports in New York. So make sure that you've sent in. Ross is typically the guy that's sending those out. Make sure you've gotten back to him for this 3-year period. You also need to make sure that your projects meet all FAA requirements. Some changes for this year's program. We've increased the funding significantly up to 50 million, which is good news. You're still going to be allowed to do 2 applications, but we're only going to award 1. Maximum award this year went up from 1.5 to $2.5 million. And then, like we went through on the website, you make sure you review all the application materials there, the NOFA, the Smart Grant Growth materials, the FAQs. Okay, scoring and selection process. So there's basically 3 steps, but the application, eligibility pass-fail evaluation, that's the first step. That's where you're putting in, you'll see it in Grants Gateway, but that's where you're putting in how many years, right? Do you have an ALP? Are you SAS 1 through 4, right? Those kind of questions. Those are your eligibility pass-fail evaluation. Make sure you pay attention to those. Then there's 3 different scoring categories that will have evaluators go through subjectively and quantitatively grade those. Then there's the smart growth requirements. So as far as that goes, there's threshold questions in the application, and then if you meet that threshold, then you've got to attach the smart growth checklist. Okay, so here are our scoring factors. I'll go through them all and I'll tell you which ones are new. So the project factors have economic benefit, operational efficiency, safety improvements, innovation and creativity, and then a new one for this program is energy efficiency and emissions reduction. So we want you guys to pay attention to that and try to get projects that will meet those needs and will I guess make sure that you what's the right word? Emphasize those benefits, right? If you haven't in the past, emphasize those. Those are 60 points. Application factors, quality of the grant application, that's 15 points, right? So you make sure you're spelling things correctly, right? Literally, that's probably the biggest problem with that area. Airport factors, potential for attracting aviation activity, that's 15 points. The matching share, which you guys can pick, depending on your emplanements, your matching share to get a full 5 points increases. You've got past experience matching grants, right? Or managing grants, right? How well have you done in the past? That's 5 points. One thing I'll note it here. I might note it in the tips and tricks too. But last time, one of the big items that people missed was kind of proving that for the economic benefit, that there was a return on investment. So make sure even if you know that, snow plowing, is operationally efficient and there's economic benefits to plowing snow, right? You got to put the math in, right? Make sure you put that in your applications. You've got to show a return on investment, all right? Okay. Next up is Wanda Anderson. She will talk to you about MWBE and the SDVOB requirements. Um, she is out of the Office of Civil Rights and helps us out regularly with this. Wanda, you are up.
Anderson, and I am from the Office of Diversity and Opportunity, formerly known as the Office of Civil Rights. So I'm gonna briefly go over what are the MWBE and SDVOB requirements. According to Article 15A, state agencies are required to encourage minority and women, service, and disabled veteran-owned business participation on state contracts. Participation is encouraged on non-federal aid contracts. The types of contracts or the thresholds are for labor and services. We encourage participation on contracts that exceed 25,000. For construction, real property renovations, we encourage participation on contracts that exceed $100,000. NISTOD has establishes agency goals each year. Currently, our agency goal is 8% minority participation, 15% W participation for construction contracts. For consultant and engineering contracts, the participation goals are 19% M and 7% W. Regardless of whether the contract is for construction or consulting, the SDVOB goal is 6%. We ask that all sponsors, when reviewing their projects, they establish a goal that is appropriate for the project. Any goal modifications that is other than what is described above must be approved by ODL. I do want to state again that the goals are established by the agency each year. We go through a review to make sure that the goals are appropriate. We are subject to go through another goal approval, I believe January 15th. So you will see that the goals will change to be something different than what you see on the screen. Okay, that is it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, Wanda.
Yep.
Okay, so how are you guys going to prepare and submit your application? Once you're ready to submit, go to our website, www.dot.ny.gov/aviation grants. Read all the relevant material. I know at this point you've already read it, right? But I just want to make sure that you check it, especially the Q&As. Make sure you've gone through all of those. Nothing's changed, right? Read through the materials again. And then prepare your documents and answers. What we suggest is put your answers, especially the longer ones where you're writing text out, into Word. Spell check some and makes it easier to cut and paste right into Grants Gateway. So you're going to log in, you're going to start your application at grantsgateway.ny.gov. You're going to fill out the application. Your required fields are marked with an asterisk. I will note here that there's one issue that we had with Grants Gateway, and it's that we put a required field on the suffix for the name. So Jeff will show you that in his part too. But what we ask you to do there, it's a required field. So basically, if you got junior to the third, then you're fine. But if you don't, just put a period or something like that. in that field. It'll let you continue on. Project data, right? The pass-fail questions, those are 5A through 5J. Make sure you fill those out, like I said before. Be real cognizant of what you're putting in there. Make sure your projects are 10-year service life. Smart growth threshold questions, right? You're going to answer those. If you meet the threshold, then you're going to have to include the smart growth checklist. Description and justifications. Those fields can expand, and you're going to cut and paste your answers into there from a Word document. You don't have to, but best practice. Project budget. You're going to enter in your amounts and your local share. Then you're going to print your application to PDF or a hard copy. 6th step, submit application and attach your supporting materials, your smart growth as needed. One key is the person that can create the application is not necessarily the person that could submit the application. So the only roles that are allowed to submit are grantee contract signatory and grantee system administrator. So make sure you know who has those roles. Again, before the last day, right? Don't be doing that on January 11th. Make sure you know who your grantee contract signatory is and your grantee system administrator is. They are the only ones that can submit the application. You also want to make sure they're in, right? They're not on vacation on the 10th or the 11th, right? So make sure you know who has those roles in your agency. Okay, application tips. It's a little bit of a repeat, but I'm going to say it again. Become familiar with the NOFA/grant program guidelines. Print and follow application instructions. Gather all the information necessary to complete the application. Become familiar with Grants Gateway, the roles, the training, right? If you haven't done Grants Gateway, please stay for the optional session at the end with Jeff. Note the Grants Gateway number assigned to the application. This is how NISDOT will reference the application. Cut and paste lengthy entries into the application. Save often. Grantee contract signatory or grantee system administrator must submit the application by the deadline with all supporting documentation uploaded. Save and print the application for your records. And again, do not wait until the last minute. Okay. Told you I'm going to say it a few times. The application deadline is January 11th at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. All applications submitted through Grants Gateway, don't wait until the last day. Some supporting materials are just as important as the justifications. This is a reimbursement program with a 10, 20, or 30% sponsor match. That sponsor match is dependent on your enplanements for your airport. Online training is available for Grants Gateway. Okay. All right. So problems and questions that you may have, you can call 518-485-7691. That'll get you to our bureau. You can email our bureau at aviation@dot.ny.gov. Please visit our website, www.dot.ny.gov/aviation grants. And then if you have any specific Grants Gateway questions, that will go to Grants Gateway at its.ny.gov. So at this point, before I give the presentation to Jeff Fila for Grants Gateway, do we have any questions? Ross, I'll ask you if you can check the Q&A.
Nothing in the Q&A right now.
Okay. All right, that's good. A lot of us are don't like to ask questions, but this is your opportunity. Obviously, you can ask us questions at aviation@dot.ny.gov. or you can give us a call, but it's probably best if you write down your questions and email them. So what we'll do is we'll let Jeff get started. If any questions come in, we can answer them on the fly. There, I see one. I see a question. Did Peter ask a question? Jeff? Sorry, Ross. There, I see some. All right, Ross, you want to read off the questions so everyone else can hear them?
All right, so looks like we have one here from Anthony. What is the maximum grant that can be offered to each airport?
Okay, that is a good question. That's 2.5 million, and that's an increase from 1.5 million in the past programs. So it's 2.5 million per airport, one award.
All right. The next question is your slide showed MWBE requirements for equipment purchases. Does that mean the supplier has to be an MWBE?
So we have answered that question in our Q&A document that we'll post on the website that has come in before. The answer, and Wanda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to reach out to suppliers, and you have to show a good faith effort that you're reaching out to suppliers that are MWBEs for any particular equipment that you would be purchasing. Is that correct, Wanda? Ross, you might have to check to see if she's muted.
Oh, yeah, Wanda, let me unmute you.
Yes.
There you go.
Lowell, you are correct. You are correct. You must show a good faith effort in reaching out to MNWBEs for the purchase of equipment. I do know that from experience, most of the time there are no MNWBE vendors that are available to supply the equipment. But again, we have to show that we made a good faith effort in seeking MNWBEs.
Okay, thanks, Wanda.
Yeah.
All right, Ross, what's the next question?
All right. Next question is employments have charged with COVID. I think that might be a type of change with COVID. Which year employments are we using to determine share percentage?
If it doesn't say, I think it says it in the NOFA, so let me check. I think it says which
It
year.
says 2019 in the NOVA.
Okay, yeah, so we're using 2019. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Next question. Are there Build America / Buy America rules?
Those have people, the federal government has been pushing that more. I'm gonna have to go back and check that one. But we'll give you an answer on the website for that question.
Okay, that's it. That's all we got in the chat right now.
Okay, great. Continue to ask questions. Any questions you guys ask, we will answer. Like I said, in a Word document, we'll put a PDF of that on the website today. Okay, with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Jeff. I'm gonna make him the presenter, if I can do that. Presenter, change role. Okay, Jeff, you should be getting that permission, and I'm gonna mute. Thanks, guys.
right, just give me a minute here to share the PowerPoint. Okay, so this is the same PowerPoint that Lowell was showing. Again, my name is Jeff Fila. I work for the Grants Gateway, and this part of this webinar is I'm going to go through a few slides to tell you some important information about the Gateway. Then I'm going to actually log into the Grants Gateway and act as an applicant and actually apply to the grant. So this, like we said, this is being recorded. You can certainly jump back here and look at the recording when it's time for you to start your application and kind of get some guidance to go through it. Again, the email address to contact our help desk is grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. We do have a phone number here in Albany. I suggest emailing instead. It's a lot easier for us to reply. Often we want to send you written instructions. We like to have a record of it. So, and the help desk is not manned. The phone is not manned as often as the email is. So we can get a reply to you in email in a matter of minutes usually. And I'm going to go to the grants management website just to show you where you can obtain the registration information if you need that, and some other information about the Grants Gateway. So registration, all entities that wish to apply for grants in the state must be registered in the Grants Gateway. So that's really your first step here. Certainly read the NOFA and all the required documents, but once it's time to get started in the Gateway, you need to register. And that process could take 5 to 10 days, so you want to leave yourself enough time to get that going. So get started right away if you can. There's a registration form that has to be completed and notarized and then emailed to us. And we can view that information or that form on their website, which I'll show you in a few minutes. As Lowell noted before, it's important to understand the roles in the Grants Gateway. When your organization is first registered, we register 1 or 2 people in the role of grantee delegated administrator. And hold on, I'm just going to turn on the markup here so I can underline some things.
I found this on the web.
Okay, stop that. All right, so the grantee delegated administrator, that's the person or persons, maybe 2 of them, that we register for your organization once you send in your registration form. Then you can create other roles, and as Lowell said, you need to have somebody in one of these roles at the bottom, grantee contract signatory or grantee system administrator, because those are the only 2 roles that are allowed to actually submit an application. Now, there is someone in the role of grantee, that could be like a grant writer or something, and that person can start, save, and edit the application, but note they cannot submit it. So don't get yourself into the problem where you're running out of time, you're only logged in as a grantee, you don't have anybody in one of those other roles that can submit it, and then you run out of time to submit it. So obviously get this set up as soon as possible in the Grants Gateway. So this is just a kind of recap. This is now probably the 3rd or 4th time you've heard it. Delegated admin can create new accounts but cannot work on the applications. You have to have someone that can sign it, grantee contract signatory or grantee system administrator. Grantee can only start and save the application, can't submit it. And it is certainly acceptable for one person to have multiple roles. The system is role-based, as you've seen with these last few slides. So you may be one person who needs more than one role, and that's fine. You'll have more than one account. You can use the same email address, even the same password, but you would have different accounts to log in to the system. And that's normal and common. Okay, so once you start your application, which you will see in a few minutes, there are sections you need to fill out. That's the program information, the capital budget, the pre-submission upload section. So I'm going to show you how to work those pages or how to go through those pages, but that's basically the majority, or that is the majority of the application in the Grants Gateway, and that's here in the Forms menu. The program-specific questions have questions, right? So there's different questions that you have to answer. Lowell was referring to that. Some of them are numeric, some of them are yes, no's, some of them are text, and I'll go through that. Now, the NOFA does give you all the questions ahead of time. So if you look at pages 19 through 22 of the NOFA, you can see those questions, and you can prepare ahead of time, maybe write your answers in Word or something like that, so you can come back into the gateway and then copy-paste your answers. There's also an uploads page, the pre-submission uploads. Now, there's one of them, or two of them actually, that are required. You can see that because there's a red asterisk next to these, the project budget estimate, so your actual budget, and the ALP. There's other documents that you can attach that are not required, but can be part of your application. And again, I'll go through that page in a few minutes. But this is a required part of the application that if you don't complete this, you won't be able to submit your application. And then there's the project budget. There is, this is not the version I thought I was sharing because I had filled it out. Oh, maybe that's the next page. It is. You're going to fill out your budget in the Excel sheet, and you're going to transfer those numbers into the grants gateway. So whatever total project cost you had in this item 1 here in the Excel sheet is what you're going to type here in the grants gateway. And remember, the grant amount is up to $2.5 million. Your project cost is obviously going to be higher than that in many cases. And then the description, you're just going to write the words total project cost. Here is the filled out budget. There's another page in the grants gateway that you have to fill out, which is the capital budget totals. And from the worksheet, I'm saying, in this case, I'm asking for $2.5 million. So that's in my Excel sheet up in the top, and I entered that into the grants gateway in the bottom. The match I have is $1.266 million, and then other funds I have is $454. So that adds up to a total project cost of $4,220,000, and we're asking for 2.5 in funding, in grant funding. So these numbers obviously are not going to be the same as yours, but just showing you where you get the numbers from the worksheet and where you enter them into the grants gateway. And then finally, it's time to submit your application when you're done. Obviously, as we've said before, do it ahead of time. Don't wait until 4:58 on the due date. Do it as soon as possible when you think your application is complete. One of those users in the role, the grantee system administrator or the grantee contract signatory, will go into the gateway and apply the status of application submitted. There's a little agreement here that make sure you are confirming that you're eligible, you're allowed to sign on behalf of your organization. You click that, and your application is now submitted. So the next steps in the gateway. Make sure your organization is registered. I'm going to do that in just a minute to show you where you get that information. Ensure you have those people logged in or the accounts created in the appropriate roles. Download the NOFA, the other supporting information, read them, be familiar with them, be familiar with the requirements and the details. Start your application in the grants gateway, and then again, obviously, submit your application prior to the deadline. Don't wait till the last minute. Okay, so that's it for the PowerPoint. Now I'm going to get into sharing my web browser, and we'll get into the system. Okay, so you should see I'm in Microsoft Edge. It doesn't really matter what browser you use. Things do look a little better in Edge, but Safari or Chrome or Firefox, they all work fine. There's a couple pages where the display is a little weird, but it's nothing that will prevent you from completing or submitting your application. So I'm at the Grants Gateway. Before I go there, I want to go to the other two websites. I'm going to go to the Grants Management website. So this is grantsmanagement.ny.gov. And I did mention the registration form. If you go to Get Started, you can see Register Your Organization. So if your airport or your organization or municipality is not registered yet, this is the first step. Now, you may not know if it's registered or not, and that's fine. You can email us at the help desk, and we can let you know, and we can let you know if who the registered users are if you want them to, if they need to log in and create an account for you. So email us if you're unsure, but you can see Get Started, Register Your Organization, and here's the instructions, the forms, everything you need to get registered. Again, give that 5 or 10 days. So, if you're not registered yet, get started right away. There's some help here about how to apply. I wouldn't bother with that because this webinar and the instructions in the NOFA are much better and much more detailed for what you're doing here. So that's really all I needed to point out here. There's some FAQs here under training and guidance. There's links to videos and webinars. Again, I don't think you need to do those because this one you're in right now will have more details. All right. The other thing is the DOT website, the Aviation Grants website. This, you can see there is, I assume most of you have been here already because you've gone to the webinar and you've registered for it. But again, the NOFA, the FAQ, other guidelines here that are important for you to download. Okay, but let's get back to the Grants Gateway. Again, the website is grantsgateway.ny.gov. I always mention this because sometimes people have a habit of typing in www. Don't do that because you see we get an error when we do that. The website is not www.grantsgateway.ny.gov. It's just grantsgateway.ny.gov. So I'm going to go there again. And we are brought to the portal. The portal is basically just anybody in the world can search for any grant opportunities that are open in New York State. But that's not what you want to do. You want to end up logging in, and you'll click the login button and log in with your username and password. So this is our live site. I'm going to skip over to our test site, which will allow me to make this application without actually doing it in the real site. So I'm going to log in, and my user is bsignatory1. Your user ID is usually your first initial, last name, and a number. If you don't know your password or you forgot it, you can click on Forgot Password and get it reset. But I do know mine. And I clicked on the login button, and we're just waiting for it to refresh, and there it is. So there's a bunch of things you can do in the Grants Gateway once you've logged in, but you can see I am indeed in one of those roles that can submit an application. I'm a grantee contract signatory. And a lot of people might think you need to go to applications here to start your application. That is not true. These are areas to search the Grants Gateway. So you can search for any applications your organization has already started. You can search for contracts your organization already has, and payments, and progress reports, and tasks. That's not what you're doing here. If you want to start an application, you go right here to view opportunities, and that's what I'll do. So you can ignore the inbox. That's just kind of a copy of any messages you might have received, any emails. And then the tasks. Now, normally you might not have a task, especially if you're a new user. I do, because before we started this webinar earlier this morning, I started an application already. If you remember, Lowell said you could start up to 2 applications. I started one already just to give us a head start so I don't have to type a whole bunch of things. But I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to start from scratch right now, and then I'll jump to that other one a little later. So what you would do is you would log in, make sure you're in one of the appropriate roles, and if you are, you've got this View Opportunities button. You click View Opportunities, and you need to search for the grant opportunity name. It's a lot easier. It's easy to just type in the word aviation and then hit search. So I did that, and I found the 2022 Aviation Capital Grant Program. That's the one we want. That's due on January 11th at 5 p.m. And I'm going to click on it. And this is the funding profile, a little information about it. And there's a button here that says Apply for Grant Opportunity. Now, it tells me I've got one application in process already. That's, again, because I already started one. It probably won't be that way for you unless you are starting a second application. So it's going to warn me that, hey, you already have one open, but that's fine. We already know that. So I click on it. There's that warning. Yes, I know I'm going to start another application. That's fine. I hit OK. And give it a minute to refresh, and now we're in a new application. So I am in application number 32. I'm the 32nd person to start an application. If I click on details, we can see this is my organization name, Test Municipal Airport. I'm in that role that we talked about, and it's in the status of application in process. So if you remember from the PowerPoint, everything we do is in this Forms menu. So in these green buttons, you can see Forms menu, and I can click on the word Forms, and I'm in the Forms menu. So you can skip the first few sections here. Contract document properties is just documents that would make up a contract if you were to be awarded one. It has nothing to do with an application. It's just for your information. This information here is application information. Of course, we haven't done the application yet, so there's not going to be much information. But we do have a link here to the RFP, or at least to the Aviation Grants website. There's a link to instructions, which are also included in the NOFA. And then application versions is the application that you will submit eventually, but obviously we haven't done that yet, so there's not going to be anything there yet. There will be a PDF that appears here about 5 or 10, maybe 15 minutes after you submit your application in the Grants Gateway. That's the PDF that includes all your information, all of your details and attachments that DOT will use to review and evaluate your application. So if you remember where I pointed to in the PowerPoint, these 3 sections that are where you have to fill out: the program information, the capital budget, and the pre-submission uploads. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll go to project site addresses, and it's just fill out your address. Where's the location of the facility? You can put in the airport here. We'll say 123 Main Street. Any town in Albany County, and I'll say it's 12345. And you have to pick the regional council. So that's the governor's regional council, the different regions here, and then your agency-specific region, which is, again, your geographic location here. So whenever you fill it out and you want to save the page, you can see up here in the blue bar, we have a save button, and I'm clicking that. It is now processing, and the page is saved, and it's happy. Now, you could actually miss a required field, right? Let's say I forgot to fill out this name description, which is a red asterisk, required field. And if you do that, I've hit save again, it saved the page, but it gives you an error. And you're never going to be allowed to submit your application until you've taken care of all of these missing fields, all these required fields. So it gave me an error, let me save it, but I have to eventually finish this page if I want to eventually submit my application. So I fixed it, saved it again, and we're good to go. Let's go back to the Forms menu and just go in order to the next section. Next is the program-specific questions. So this is where I'm going to maybe answer a few questions here, and then I'm going to skip to that other application I started earlier this morning. So what is your project title? And I'll just call it Jeff's Airport Project. Enter the name of the airport, my airport, JRC for Jeff's Regional, A for Jeff's Regional Airport. And then this is the information about the users and the owners. So salutation, first name, last name, suffix. You can see this suffix doesn't require an entry because, of course, not everybody has a suffix. But if you remember, Lowell was saying the next one down there does require it, so we'll take care of that. So email address, title, organization name, street address. You can see I'm just typing in gibberish here. I'm going to skip down. This is where that error was. We should have made 4C required, the last name, but instead they made 4D required. So if you don't have a suffix, just type in a period in that box, that's fine. All right, now I'm going to hit save. And you can periodically hit save, and you should periodically hit save. But you see I get a whole bunch of errors, right, because I haven't completed this page. Well, that's fine. I can log out and come back, or go to lunch or whatever and come back, and the answers I've already answered will still be here, and everything else that I haven't will be blank and awaiting my entry. Do note, though, that you need to save every, I would say, 5 or 10 minutes. The system will log you out after 15 minutes of inactivity, and just typing and scrolling is inactivity as far as the system is concerned, because you have to actually save the page or change the page to actually refresh that clock. So if you're on this page, working in it for a while, save every 5 or 10 minutes at the most. Don't get yourself to the point where you forgot to save and 15 minutes go by, and then it logs you out and you've lost all the work that you've typed in here. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this application. And I'm going to go into the other application I started, which is further along in the process. So you notice I have 2 tasks. If I click on Open Tasks, you can see that number 32 is the one we were just doing. Well, 31 is the one I started earlier this morning. I'm going to click on that. However, you don't have to have it in your tasks in order to search, in order to work on it. Let's say you don't have it as a task because you're a different user and you're logging in and you know your coworker started the application. Well, you can go here to Applications, Remember, I mentioned that before. And you can search for all applications that your organization has already started. So if I search for the word aviation, if I can spell it right, and hit search, leave everything else blank, I can find it this way. Now, obviously, if I knew the application number, that would be easy as well. I could just type it in here. Or if you didn't have any other applications besides this one, you can just leave it clear and hit search, and you'll find those applications. So as long as I'm in the right role, I can pick up on an application that somebody else has started. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on number 31, which, like I said, is a little further along in the process. So I go to the Forms menu, and I still have an error on program-specific questions, but it's only one question. Now, I'm going to show you some of these other questions. Again, a lot of them are text. Some are yes, no's. Some of them are numeric. For instance, 5C wants you to go to the DOT website here and download this or view this classification, and then you need to type in what category your airport is. So I don't know what it is. I didn't look at it, but I picked 3 here. Then you have some yes-no questions. And notice some of these yes-no questions say, if your answer is no, your application is not eligible. So this would be, if you had a no here, then it's kind of, you're basically saying to yourself, oh, I guess I'm not eligible to actually apply for this grant. Now, some of these have, you can see text boxes. I wrote, there's 1,000 characters allowed here in some of these boxes. This one allows for 4,000 characters. So that's something you could have typed in Word and then copy pasted in here. And then some of these questions, for instance, 18, have you type in a number corresponding to one of these different letter number combos. So 18 is enter the corresponding letter number combo that best represents the seeker for this project. So is it not started? Is it in process? Is there a record of decision issued? Or is it NA? So I wrote 18A because I'm saying my seeker status right now is not started. Same thing for number 19, National Environmental Policy Act. Is it not started, in process, record of decision, or NA? So I wrote 19B in this case. And then in some cases, there are other fields you have to fill out if you answer yes or no. So again, pay attention to these questions, fill them out. You've got them ahead of time in the NOFA as well. Here's another one of those, 28. You would be putting in 28A. Now, I skipped this question, and I did it because I want to, let's forget that we didn't complete our application when it's time to submit it. So we'll forget about this for now. We'll move on into the application. Next is the budget. So there's 2 fields here, other and capital summary. So other, this is where you simply type in the total cost of your project. This was on the PowerPoint, and it's also in the NOFA. And we're just going to write here total project cost. And you know what? I closed that PowerPoint. I want to be, let me see. I'm going to open it in a separate page. I just want to be in line with what I wrote in the PowerPoint we had. Okay, so my total cost here was, in my sample, $4,220,000, and I'll hit save. So I'm not saying that's how much grant money I'm asking for. I'm saying that's the total project cost that I've filled out in that document. I go back to the Forms menu, and I go to the capital summary. And this is where I tell it, well, what's the breakdown of that 4.2 million? And I have 2.5 is what I'm asking for in grant funds. Let's say 1,266. Nope, that's 12 million. Say I have in match funds, and 454 I have in other. So if I hit save, that should all add up to my total of $4.2 million, and it does. Now, if I put something in wrong, let's say I even off by $1, 125, 125, and hit save here. If even $1 is off, I get an error, because that plus that plus that does not equal 4.2 million. So you have to make sure, obviously, the numbers are correct. Now, I kind of did this out of order. I did it in the order of the Grants Gateway. There we go. I fixed the numbers and the light is green. I did it in the order of the Grants Gateway, but really, in reality, you're going to probably do the worksheet first, right? So you would have gone to pre-submission uploads, and that Excel sheet that we showed you in the PowerPoint is found right here under document template. So you would click on that, you would download the Excel sheet, you'd fill it out, and that's where you'd get those answers that I actually just filled out in the other page. So you might do it in a different order. You probably will do it in a different order. But you do have to give us that worksheet. We need to see the totals in that Excel sheet. So you have to attach that here. You would click on Choose File, and you go find that document. Now, in my case, I'm not really going to attach it. I'm just attaching a sample PDF. But in your case, obviously, you need to attach the real Excel sheet. Same thing for your ALP. I'm just going to pick a random sample PDF. Now, if you had all these other information, you can see they're not required. There's no red asterisk here. But you can. If you have them, you can attach them. Let's say I have an ROD, and so on. So I'm going to hit Save here. And because I took care of the 2 required documents, I guess I didn't. Let me just try that again. And because I took care of the 2 required documents, I won't get an error next time I hit Save here. And there we go. Now, you can look at the document you've uploaded, and I think that's important. You want to make sure you didn't accidentally upload a picture of your dog, right? Make sure it's the right completed Excel sheet. So if you click on View File, you can actually see the document you uploaded. Now, in my case, it wasn't. It was just this sample PDF document. In your case, it certainly should be the right Excel sheet. All right, so we'll go back to the Forms menu. And I've done the project site addresses. I've done the program-specific questions. Obviously, we have an error. We're going to pretend we don't notice that right now. I've done the budget. I've done the required and additional uploads if I needed to. There's another folder here called the Grantee Document folder. You don't really need to use it. This is extra information that we're not asking for. So we prefer that you don't add more uploads to make it more confusing in the review process. So it's not necessary for you to upload anything here. But in my case, I'm done. Now, we know I'm not done because I have an error here. But let's try to submit the application. So it's, again, ahead of time. Hopefully it's 2 or 3 days prior to the deadline. And we're going to go to Status Changes and apply the status of application submitted. So I'll click that button. And, of course, whoops, we get an error here because question number 28 in program-specific questions was not completed. So I can click on it, get to that problem, okay, 28, I guess I forgot to fill that out. We go down here to 28, I see, oh yeah, I forgot to do this. Let's say we are 28B. And if it was 28F, you would type in something in the description here in 29. So I answered 28, I'll hit Save. Now there are no more errors. And if I go back to the Forms menu, there are no more red stop sign errors here. So I now think I really am ready to submit my application, and I am. I'll hit Status Changes, Application Submitted, and it says, you got to read this agreement and click on I agree. Yes, I'm allowed to submit on behalf of my organization. I click I agree, and it's now processing, and my application has been submitted. So how do I know that? Number 1, I didn't give you an error. Number 2, I just got an email that says, congratulations, you've submitted application number 00031. Number 3, if you remember, the status before was application in process, and now it's in assignment of reviewers. It's a task for DOT to assign their reviewers to the application. That won't happen until after 111, but it's been submitted. And the other thing is, remember, I had 2 tasks. So if you were trying to submit 2 applications, remember, I only did 1. I would have to go back to my home page, look at my tasks. I only have 1 now because the other one has been submitted. And if I wanted to, I could pick up with application number 32 if I want a second application. I don't, but remember, one last thing is I can click on applications and I can still search for it. Even though I've submitted it, I can click on search for the word aviation, and I can see it, and you can see right there, application 31 is in assignment of reviewers, application 32 is still in process. Now, one last thing is I wanted to show where the application versions show up. And that takes a few minutes, so it's not there yet. But I went into the application we submitted. I went to the Forms menu, and the PDF, which will include everything we just did, which DOT will utilize for their review process, will appear here, like I said, within 5 or 10 minutes. So perhaps with some more talking and stalling, it'll appear here, and I'll be able to show it to you. So that's all I have in this part. I'm going to stop sharing, and if it does appear, I will bring it up for you. And we're going to look at the Q&A in the chat and see if there's anything that DOT wants to address. And I don't see anything new. Nope, I don't see anything new. So that's really all I have. I can't show you the application PDF until it's done. Like I said, it might be longer than we have time to wait here. But it is basically just a PDF of your entire application. All right, so Lowell or anybody at DOT, if you want to take over here. And you're muted, Lowell. I don't know if you're trying to speak.
There we go. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You know what? Hold on. I'm sorry. It did just appear, so I might as well show that now, if you don't mind.
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. Last thing is I'm going to share again, and it did show, right? So now it's here as of 10:57 and 07 seconds. I click on application versions, and this is my full application that DOT will use to review. I can click on it, download the PDF. You should be able to see it here in my browser. Now, mine's only 20 pages. Yours is certainly going to be a lot longer because the attachments I included were just little, one-sentence placeholders. But I just wanted to show you what it looks like. First page is just a cover page, your application number, the amount of grant funds you're requesting. Second page is what you attested to when you submitted the application. Third page is that project site address. And starting on the fourth page is the answer to the questions. So here's all the questions that we were asked and all the answers we provided. And this obviously goes for several pages. And as I scroll through here, we can see some of the larger answers or longer answers. You can see them here as well. All right, and then once we're done with that, we get to the budget. So there's that budget summary. And then there's the budget detail, which is just simply the total project cost of, in my case, $4.22 million. Work plan, don't worry about that. That's not something that DOT asked for or something that you have to fill out, but it is a default part of this PDF, so it'll be blank, and that's fine. That's normal in this case. And then after the work plan is all of those attachments we provided. So the first one should be my Excel sheet detailed budget. Obviously, it's just a placeholder PDF in my case. The second one was the second attachment, and then we can remember I added 3 or 4 of them. So here's the third, and here's the fourth, and that's the end of my application PDF. So yours obviously will be many more pages or several more pages, and it will certainly have to include that budget and the required documents. So that is all I wanted to share. And now I'm going to stop and let Lowell pick up.
Okay, Jeff, thank you very much. I don't see any new questions in the chat or in the Q&A. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to put any questions in the chat or Q&A. If you'd like, go ahead and we'll get those on the record. We'll try to get you an answer. Right now, like I said, I'll just give you I'll give you 2 minutes. Okay. While we're waiting, like I said, we'll any questions you guys ask, right? To be fair to everybody, we'll post them on the website, and we should be able to get those out in the next couple days. So look on the web page. One thing we'll do is we'll also send out an email to our email list that we sent to distribute this webinar, and we will let you know when those Q&As are posted. All right, let's see. Has anyone asked any questions? Still looks all quiet. Okay. All right. With that, we can end. I'd like to thank the presenters, Jeff and Wanda. We appreciate it. Yes, sir. Yep.
Hold on 1 second. You did get a question here at the last second.
Okay.
The question is, does our estimate have to be based on printed price quotes from vendors for equipment, for instance?
Okay. That one I'll have to confirm. My guess is the answer is yes, but I will. I can't say that for sure. So let me check that one, and we will put that in the Q&A. It's a good question.
All right, that's the last one.
Okay. All right. Again, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Wanda. Thanks, everyone in my bureau for helping setting these up. We appreciate everyone that attended. If you guys have any questions, you've got tons of places to ask those questions. So reach out. And good luck. Thanks.